Chris, I'll start with, have you had a few knocks on the door from Jeremy Cameron this week, and would you give him the green light?
No, he hasn't knocked on the door because he knows he's not playing and he's known for some time. So we've been quite clear about that. With his rehab, there's never been any suggestion from our end that he would play this week. And I guess there's probably the only area where there's been some room for confusion there is the people that have watched him on the track, because he's been performing really well. But I don't think anyone needs me to elaborate too much on why we're going to hold him back for a little bit longer.
How much longer, Chris? Is it next week? Do you think he'd be in the frame?
Yeah, I think he'll play next week.
Chris, so it obviously gives another week to Asava and your current forward group to put their foot forward. I mean, it's added motivation for them, obviously, with Jeremy knocking down to lock in their spot.
Yeah, I don't think that's just confined to our forwards or our key position players. We've got some competition for spots. You know, for the most part, I think the players that missed last week will miss again this week. So it gives the guys that came in last week another opportunity to put their best case forward. You know, getting towards the end of the year, it obviously becomes more difficult with selection. And as I said last week, you know, the old cliche that's a good problem to have, I guess is true from a club perspective, but it doesn't mean that we don't empathise with those guys who are playing well and not necessarily getting their opportunity. And if you expand that conversation a little bit further, the lack of VFL footy makes it even harder for those guys. But I think we showed, at least in a small way last week, that we've got faith in our training program and we're prepared to bring in a guy like Nathan Kruger for his first game. And Zach Guthrie came in after good training performance, good VFL performance previously. We know he can do it at AFL level and played really well too. So they're just two examples that hopefully the guys that are a bit starved of opportunity can look to for a bit of inspiration.
So just confirming with Jeremy Cameron, he won't play obviously VFL this week or next week. It's playing straight back into AFL week.
I wouldn't guarantee that that's the plan. I'm trying to give you an indication, but no, I'm not in the business of guaranteeing plans that are still a week and a half away. But yeah, I think if you wanted to go with a balance of probabilities, he won't play football this week, but I think he'll play next week, and when he's right to go, he's likely to play in our AFL team. Don't hold me to it though.
Just to confirm, the guys who missed last week will also miss this week. Is that so? Lockie Henderson, Tom Atkins, Mark O'Connor. Is that what you were meaning? Sorry.
That's right. Yeah, I haven't started off as clearly as I could have. I should have been specific. I don't think those three will play.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that, as you sort of touched on, it really does give an opportunity then for those guys to make it really difficult to I suppose exclude them sort of moving beyond this week, given the performances that they put in on Saturday.
Yeah, in a way it makes it harder, but that's really the equation that we roll with every year. You know, at any stage of the season, we've got 45 odd players on our list and we only pick 22 each week. So that competition for spots can be a healthy thing, but we also pride ourselves on being a really united group as well. So it's always a challenge for those guys that are starved of opportunity to, one, fight as hard as they can to put their best foot forward, but two, be supportive of their teammates that do get that opportunity.
And the fact that you've got the VFL playing on Saturday after your AFL match would mean that everybody who is fit and available at least has the chance to play this week, which must be a really good thing given the last sort of few weeks with the lack of VFL footy.
Yeah, it does help. That there are often challenges when it comes to the fixturing of the VFL program with carryover players and that sort of thing. But this week it's going to fall pretty nicely for us where, as you say, the guys that are available should get some VFL footy in, barring anything unforeseen between now and then, and give us a really good look at where guys are at going into the last two games of the home and away season.
Chris, did you have so sort of any issues with the game being brought forward till Friday night? And does this sort of again reinforce the need to try and perhaps have more allow clubs to have more 5-day breaks? Obviously, of course, if games are shorter and the like.
Oh, look, John, no issue for us in terms of the game coming forward. We do have a little bit of sympathy for GWS, who played after us and have been displaced for a decent part of the year. So, look, we're certainly not dancing on anyone's grave. We've got great sympathy for what they're going through and from what all teams have been through to some extent over the last 18 months. I think that's the first part of your question. But the second part, the 5-day break issue, I think the AFL Players Association have done a good job in prioritising welfare in conjunction with the AFL, and I think these things open up if the game time's shorter. It's very difficult to make these changes on the run without having the flexibility to change game time. So I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion amongst the powers that be post-season. If we want more flexibility with the fixture, which I think virtually everyone supports, then we need to think about the game time and the toll on players. But you know, there's enough last-minute change at the moment to add the burden of lots of short breaks to teams with full game time, a reduction in interchange, etc. I think is a bridge too far right at the moment.
Chris, a bit of a left field one, but you've got probably in a good place to answer this question. Premiership medals for players who have played through the year but haven't played on the day. Are we at to a point now where, I mean, you guys, the coaches, speak so often about it's a squad mentality that wins premierships, yet, you know, guys miss out on a premiership medal if they don't play on the day. Should we maybe modernise that and take on that?
Well, I think so. I've always thought that, but this won't fly for a lot of people, I think. But just because you don't get a premiership medallion doesn't mean you haven't been a part of it. I've always considered those people to be a part of it. You know, I go back to 2011 with Geelong. Cameron Mooney and Darren Milburn were absolutely a part of what we delivered that year, a crucial part of it. And we don't need to give them a premiership medallion to reinforce our opinion on that. But it's not a question I expected, to be honest. I've thought about it a lot over the years, not so much in recent time, but yeah, I agree with that proposition. I guess I don't want to be the one driving it the most. I'll leave that to you.
Chris, how advantageous, comforting is it, barring anything going mad with the world in the next 3 weeks, you're at home, you're not on the road, you know, players don't have to around travel, etc., to run into the finals? Is that something you factor in going, gee, this is just so nice to have at the moment, that, you know, barring anything stupid going in the world, that, you know, you're locked into 300 games in Geelong?
Well, in the current COVID environment, I don't think anything's locked in. But even if it were, my experience is coming into a final series, comfortable is not the way I'd describe the way I feel, Kingy. We're on the edge of our seat, and we need to be, because the competition is so strong, and it's difficult week to week, even without projecting forward. So I acknowledge the part of your question which involves, you know, lack of complexity around travel, potential upheaval with venues, and a run into finals. But yeah, I can only answer it by saying that comfortable is not a good way to describe where I'm at or where we're at right at the moment.
We're not upset we get 3 games at GMHBA Stadium, so I'm probably comfortable, Chris, so I apologise for using that word. Can I ask you about Cooper Stevens, just how he's tracking? Will we see him play some footy at all this year?
He's a chance. He's starting to move pretty well on the track. We had the opportunity around the mid-season draft to put him on the long-term injury list, and we didn't think that there was enough certainty there that he would miss the required number of games. But look, I think whether he comes back and plays or not is nowhere near as important in my mind as what he delivers over the pre-season to give him a chance for next year. I don't think whether he gets back this year is really going to influence the way we think about him too much, because we're just a bit more long term with him.
Cam Guthrie plays his 200th this weekend. Just a couple of questions. One, just give us your thoughts on Cam. I suppose his evolution over the last 2 or 3 years to, from your workman-like midfielder to probably now an elite midfielder.
Yeah, I think if you go back even further, he and I arrived at Geelong at the same time, and he's probably evolved from a back initially, to a bit of a run with type midfielder who evolved again to being a bit more of an attacking midfielder. But he's always based his game on defence and the contest, which is the thing I admire about him the most. He's added those attacking layers off the back of a really strong foundation around his work in the contest, and playing back I think's helped him a little bit as a defensive mid as well. I think that's generally quite a nice evolution for players that go on to be really good inside midfielders. I'm really proud of him. 200 games, a great achievement. He's been important for our footy club and has been, well and truly before he won a best and fairest with us in a pretty good year.